For centuries, the dense forests of Denmark have been shrouded in mystery, their shadows echoing with tales of vanished Viking warriors. Locals whispered of ghostly figures and lost strongholds, stories passed down through generations that seemed to blur the line between myth and reality. These were just legends, or so we thought, old stories inked on parchment, dismissed as folklore by scholars and skeptics alike. The Vikings we knew were seafaring warriors, building mighty coastal forts to display their power and defend their territory from invaders. Their strongholds stood as symbols of dominance, visible to all who approached by land or sea. But deep inland, far from the crashing waves, a secretive group of Vikings vanished into the wild, leaving behind only faint traces and rumors. These were not the warriors of open battle, but people who chose to disappear into the heart of the forest. For centuries their secrets lay buried beneath layers of earth and tangled roots, invisible to the naked eye. It wasn't until the advent of satellites and LiDAR technology that perfect circles, fortresses, were revealed, hidden beneath the trees and undetectable from the ground. These discoveries changed everything. These were not the sea raiders we imagined, but a vast network of hidden ring forts scattered far from the coast, deep within the forests of Denmark. The discovery was nothing short of astonishing. These Vikings were masters of concealment, thriving in places no one thought to look, their settlements camouflaged by nature itself. LiDAR technology stripped away centuries of natural camouflage, exposing a lost world that had been hidden in plain sight. Suddenly, the forest floor was alive with the outlines of ancient fortresses. These ghost forts, once thought to be mere legend, now stood as undeniable proof that the stories were true. The past had come alive in the misty woods. The artifacts and tools found within these sites revealed a Viking society, skilled not only in survival, but in secrecy and adaptation to the harsh woodland environment. These were not just raiders, but architects of invisibility, ingenious builders who used the landscape to their advantage, blending their homes seamlessly into the forest. The hidden world of the so-called Bush Vikings was finally uncovered, their story emerging from the shadows after centuries of silence. Today, their secrets are rewriting what we know about the Viking Age, revealing a civilization far more complex, resourceful, and mysterious than we ever imagined. The Bush Vikings were a different breed, rugged survivors who thrived where others dared not tread. These warriors turned the wild into their stronghold, carving out a life in the heart of the untamed forests. They built shelters from fallen branches, weaving the landscape into their defenses. While others sailed the seas in search of glory, these Vikings mastered the secrets of the forests, rivers and bogs. They learned to move silently, blending into the landscape so completely that they seemed to vanish at will. Their greatest strength was invisibility, not brute force. They became shadows among the trees, unseen and unheard, always watching. They learned from nature itself how deer vanish in a heartbeat, how foxes slip through the snow without a sound. Life in the wild was harsh, winters were long and brutal, food was scarce, and danger lurked everywhere. To survive, they became skilled hunters, trappers and farmers, storing food in underground pits and drying meat for the lean months. They gathered roots and berries, using every resource the land offered. Their forts were more than just defences. They were lifelines, safe havens against the cold, hunger and sudden attack. These strongholds were built to withstand both the elements and their enemies. Hidden deep in the woods, they watched unseen, their eyes always alert for any sign of threat or opportunity. When the time was right, they struck with precision, swift, silent and deadly, emerging from the shadows only when it truly mattered. The forest was their battlefield, a place where they held every advantage. In these woods, they were ghosts, impossible to find, impossible to defeat. They were the true masters of the wild, living legends whose skills and spirit still echo through the forests today. The Bush Vikings built with the land, not just on it. Their approach to construction was deeply rooted in a respect for the natural world, using the earth itself as both a resource and a shield. They understood the landscape intimately, shaping their settlements to fit the contours of the land, rather than forcing the land to conform to their needs. Using soil, clay, and timber, they created ramparts, massive circular walls formed from earth dug out of deep ditches. These materials were not only abundant, but also provided excellent insulation and protection, making the forts both sturdy and sustainable. These circles had no weak corners, a hallmark of Viking engineering. The rounded design made the forts more resilient against attacks and helped distribute weight and pressure evenly, reducing the risk of collapse. Wooden palisades topped the walls, blending with the forest. The timber was sourced from nearby woods, allowing the structures to merge seamlessly with their surroundings and making them difficult for enemies to spot from a distance. Their forts looked like natural hills camouflaged by design. This clever use of camouflage meant that even experienced scouts could mistake a fortress for a simple rise in the landscape, giving the Vikings a crucial advantage. Construction was a feat of teamwork. Hundreds digging, hauling, and building with local materials. Every member of the community played a role, from gathering resources to shaping the earth, forging a strong sense of unity and shared purpose. The result: fortresses strong enough to withstand attack, yet subtle enough to vanish into the landscape. These defenses were not just physical barriers, but also psychological ones, instilling uncertainty in would-be invaders. Every detail was about survival and stealth. Hidden entrances, concealed lookout points, and clever traps were all part of the design, ensuring that the Vikings could defend their homes while remaining nearly invisible. Their genius was making the artificial look natural. By mimicking the forms and colors of the landscape, they created defenses that were as beautiful as they were effective, a true testament to their ingenuity. The Bush Vikings' forts were nature and engineering, fused. Their legacy endures in the earth itself, a reminder of how human creativity can work in harmony with the world around us. Every part of these forts was designed for invisibility. Roofs were covered in turf, sprouting grass and wildflowers, blending into the meadows. Ditches became moats, filled by diverted streams, doubling as defense and water supply. Drainage systems kept the settlement dry while moats stayed full. Forts were built in shadows, on gentle slopes, hidden from obvious view. Entrances were narrow, angled passages, deadly choke points invisible from outside. Even the palisades mimicked the forest's rough lines. The landscape itself became their shield. Every feature served survival, strength, and secrecy. These were fortresses woven seamlessly into the wild. Inside the ramparts, these forts were vibrant communities. Longhouses sheltered families, livestock, and workshops, all under one turf-insulated roof. Central fire pits provided warmth and light. Animals' body heat helped everyone survive winter. Self-sufficiency was essential. Blacksmiths, woodworkers, and weavers kept life running. Food was stored in pits and cellars, everything needed for survival within the walls. The circular design fostered unity and safety. Children played, people worked, all protected from raids and the elements. The fortress was both sanctuary and home. Military strength and daily life coexisted in perfect balance. These were not just forts, they were thriving, hidden worlds. Location was everything for the Bush Vikings. They scouted for sites with water, wood, and natural concealment. Rivers provided water, secret transport, and escape routes, yet forts were set back, hidden from view. Dense forests supplied timber and muffled sounds, creating a living shield. Forts were often built at choke points, narrow passes, or strips of land between marshes. This let them control movement, monitor trade, and demand tolls without being seen. The forest was both resource and defense. Careful planning made their forts invisible and powerful. Their hidden strongholds controlled the land like spiders at the center of a web. Strategic genius kept them safe and unseen. The Bush Vikings' greatest weapon was invisibility. Their forts melted into legend, then vanished from memory for 1,000 years. Enemies marched through their lands, never knowing hundreds watched from hidden strongholds. Surprise attacks struck terror. The Vikings chose when to fight, preserving their strength. Their goal was survival, not glory, fighting only when the odds favored them. Over time, nature reclaimed the forts. Wood rotted, turf collapsed, earth softened. Grass and trees erased all traces, turning fortresses into rolling hills. For centuries, no one knew they existed. Their final trick, disappearing so completely they became myth, true masters of vanishing. Rediscovering these hidden forts offers lessons for today. The Bush Vikings show that true strength is adaptability, not size or noise. Blending in, using local resources, and reading the land are timeless survival skills. Their shelters were strong and warm, built from earth and wood. Rivers and hills became tools for defense and life. Patience and observation were their greatest assets, acting only when the time was right. Their story reminds us, survival is about working with the world, not against it. Ancient wisdom still holds power. The ghosts of the forest teach us to see, adapt, and endure. Their secrets are lessons for us all.